अथ यदास्य वांग मनसि संपद्यते मन प्राणे प्राणस्तेजसी तेज परस्याम देवतायाम अथ न जानाति. Then atha means then yada when asya his vang manasi sampadate, the speech merges into mind, and manaha prane, the mind into the vital force, pranas tejasi, the vital force the individual soul, and teja prasyam devadayam, that individual soul merges into the supreme reality. At that time atha na janati, he ceases to recognize anybody. Hashyam संसारिणो यो मरण क्रम सएव अयम विदुषोपि. It's very clear. The process of death, as it is in the case of a transmigrating soul. Sansarino yo marana krama. The process of death, the order in which he goes, merges further. That order or the process of death, as it is in the case of a transmigrating soul, so is also it is same in the case of a person who knows Brahman too. Saiva ayam vidushopi. As in the case of the knowledgeable man, the wise person, for him also it is the same. Sat sampati krama. Until where but? Sat sampati krama. Marana krama, saiva ayam vidushopi, sat sampati krama. The only difference is in the words that we say. For a transmigrating soul we say marana krama, and for a person who has got the knowledge of Brahman we say sat sampati krama. The words are different only. The process is same. Of attaining existence by liberated person, Vidusha, you can take a directly liberated person itself, because we are giving a new name, sat sampati krama. Ityetad aha परस्याम देवतायाम तेजसी संपन्ने अथ न जानाति. When this individual soul merges into that supreme deity, अथ न जानाति, after the individual soul merging into the supreme deity, one ceases to recognize. This is what the text speaks of, this particular process. Iti etad aha. Iti etad aha. This is what the text wants to show here or indicate here. Avidvansto. Then what is the difference? The question arises. For that is avidvansto sata utthaya prag bhavitam vyagradi bhavam dev manushyaadi bhavam va vishati. But the ignorant man, avidvansto utthaya, re-emerging from satah uttaya, re-emerging from that absolute existence, vishati is at the end of the sentence, he enters where? Into the body of vyagradi bhavam, deva manushyaadi bhavam va. He attains or assumes the body of a tiger, etc., or a deity man, etc. Why? Prag bhavitam is the reason you can get. According to his own destined actions that are the cause of the new body. Prak bhavitam. Before, prak means before the body of the tiger, etc., which is going to take birth. What is bhavitam? Prarabdha karma has got together the actions that have become active to give the new body. Those are the cause of the new body. Accordingly, he attains any body, maybe of tiger, etc., animals, or deities, or man, etc. Because they become active at the time of death. This has been taught before by Jaluka Nyaya. That's what you call the Jaluka. The leech, I think. By that they say. The example has been given. At the time, while the time of death comes, at that time itself, these certain actions which are among the accumulated actions and the krita in that particular body which is going to die, the actions that have been performed in that particular present birth, plus the accumulated actions. Among them, certain actions become active to give the fruits. Those will be called as the prarabdha karma, the destined actions of the new body. Keeping all this in the mind, the one word is Bhashikar is using here, prag bhavitam. व्याघ्रादि भावम देव मनुष्यादि भावम वा विशति। विद्वांस तो शास्त्राचार उपदेश जनित ज्ञान दीप प्रकाशित सद्ब्रह्मात्मान प्रविश्य नावर्तति एष सत्संपत्ति क्रम। दैट इज व्हाई वी आर गिविंग द न्यू नेम कॉल्ड एज सत्संपत्ति क्रम, बिकॉज दिस fellow does not return at all. Vidvans to, but for a person who has got the knowledge, how he has got the knowledge? शास्त्राचार्योपदेश जनित ज्ञान दीप प्रकाशित. But he possesses the knowledge produced by the scriptures and the instructions of the acharya, the teacher, acharya upadesha, produced by these two things: one, the scriptures and the instructions of the teachers. That knowledge, which is just like a lamp, reveals, prakashitam, it has revealed the truth. What is the truth? Sad Brahmatmanam Pravishya, which has made him to get identified with Brahman, which was stated here by the word Sat as absolute existence. Sat Brahma Atmanam, with his own self, Pravishya, having identified, enter into here in the sense, having identified with it. Navartate, having identified with that Brahman, which is called as Brahman, the absolute existence, he never returns. Iti yesha sat sampatti kramaha. This is the order of attaining the absolute existence. Anyeto, but certain people have misinterpreted this mantra. They give new different meaning itself. They say when a Brahmajnani goes through this Murdhanadi from the body and then attains Brahman, it does not come directly. It is his individual soul does not get identified being within this body itself with the Brahman. He has to go out of this body. Then he will become Brahman. Some people are saying so, anyetu. That's why he says anyetu. However, some people say like this: what? Murdhanyaya nadya utkramya adityadi dvarena sadgacchantityahu tadasam. That is wrong. The Brahmajnani he does not go to any loka and attains Brahman. There is no movement at all of any type. Movement of any type. But here that fellow is thinking he does not come out of the body, but he goes to Adityadi Dvarena. He goes somewhere to Brahmaloka and then become Brahman. It is not like that. That's wrong. There is however, somebody is saying like this: what? Murdhanyaya nadya. One attains that absolute existence by emerging out of this body from the nerve. Murdhanyaya nadya, from the nerve, which is going through the top of the head of this body. And what it does? Adityadi dvarena. Then from there, he does not become immediately Brahman. Just come out of this body through the head, top of the head. Still he has to go further. Aditya Loka. Tad dvarena. Through all that route, that means he goes through the path of gods, Uttarayana Marga. And then he becomes Brahman. Sadgacchati. Then he becomes or attains the absolute existence. Ityahu. This is what they say. Tat asat. That is wrong. Why that is wrong? Desha kala nimitta palabhisandhanena gamana darshanat. Because any type of movement that is noticed has got these three reasons. One is desha, the other is kala, and the third is nimitta. And among them is faladi. So, as it is the movement is noticed in such cases only, those who have these three things, where there is hankering for enjoyment of the fruits. Falabhisandhanam. There's falabhisandhanam. Falabhisandhanam means hankering for enjoying the fruits of his own actions. And desh and kala, space and time. These are all the causes for movement. Nahi sadatmaikatu darshina satyavisandasya deshakal nimita faladi anritavisandhir upapadyate. And it's not possible to imagine also in the case of a person who has sadatmaikattu darshina, one who has realized that his own individual self is non-different, is not different to the sat, the absolute existence, a person who has realized and experienced, and who is a seeker of reality, satyabhisandhasya, and deshakal nimitta phaladi anrutabhisandhihi nopavarte. In him, how you can expect that he has also an hankering to enjoy his own actions, dependent upon the space and time? How you can expect so? Virodhat, because these two are just opposite, contradictory to each other. And to whom then it happens so? He says, avidya kama karmanancha gamana nimittanam sadvigyan hutashan viplushtatvat gamananupattireva. And movement is impossible for such a great person because avidya kama karmana. The causes of movement are what? Gamana nimittanam. Gamana nimittanam. The causes of movement are avidya. Number one, ignorance. Number two, kama, desires. And number three is our actions. These causes are burned to ashes. By what? Sadvigyan hutashan. By a fire called as Satvijnana, the knowledge of the Absolute. They have been burnt into ashes by the fire of knowledge of the existence. Viplushtatvat is burnt to ash. Therefore, Gamana Anupattireva, there is impossibility of movement. There is no any possibility of movement at all. Therefore, what they have said is totally Anupattireva is totally illogical, it's not logical at all. And there are separate texts. What Bhashaka is telling, he says, I have got separate text for this too in Mundaka Upanishad. Paryapta kama se kritatmanasto ihaiva sarve praviliyanti kama. A man whose wishes have been fulfilled very well. Paryapta kamasya. Kritatmanastu. And how is he? And has attained the purpose of life. Yes, he is Kritatma. Ihaiva, being his body itself. Sarve pravilyanti kama. Eva. Ihaiva, being his body itself. Surely, verily, all the totally, completely or totally, the kama, the desires, pravilyanti, get exhausted or become vanished. Ityadi Atharvane is in the Mundaka Upanishad 3.2.2. And in the same Mundaka Upanishad, there is another example that Nadi Samudrishtanta Shrutescha is an illustration of the rivers and the sea in Mundaka Upanishad. Don't take up this one here. Here is different in a different context in Chandogya. There it is the context of Brahmajnani. The mantra there was like this: Ata nadyaha syandamanaha samudre astam gachanti tatha vidwan namarupa vihaya. Namarupe vihaya is said very clearly. There is no movement at all. These are the supporting texts, Shrutescha, Drishtanta Shrutescha, illustrative Vedic texts. Parat Param Purusham Upayiti Divyam. Parat Param Purusham Upayiti Divyam is the mantra there. Saya Eshwani Mahitadatvedagam Sarvam Tat Satyam Sadatma Tattamasi Shvetageto Bhuya Eva Ma Bhagavan Vidyapetiti Tatha Someti Hovacha. Saya Eshwani Ma, that which is this subtle essence, Aitadatvam Vidam Sarvam. All this has got that as their own self. Tat Satyam, that is truth. Satma, that is yours, that is the self. Tattvamasi, thou art that. He Shvetaketa, oh my dear son Shvetiketo. But he says still, yes, isn't Tattvamasi? Here again is it? No, I am not Tattvamasi yet. Therefore, please, Bhuyama Bhagavan Vidyapetiti. May the Venerable Sir explain to me over once again with an illustration. Tatha Swamiti Uvacha, let it be so, replied the father. Bhashyam says, Saitya Samanam. The meaning has to explain as before. So why is asking once again here the last time? This is the last time, ninth time. Saityadi Samana. Yadi Marishyatva Mukshutascha Tulya Satsampattihi Tatra Vidwan Satsampano Navartate Avartitva Vidwan Tir Karnam Drishtantena Bhuyama Bhagwan Japatiti Tatha Samiti Hovacha. The question is, if although the merger into existence is similar in the case of both the people, the case of the person having the knowledge of Brahman and in a transmigrating soul. But you said that a person who is set to get liberation, he does not return. And another person, a man of ignorance, who is about to die, he is going to return. But Marishyato Mukshatascha. Marishata is about a person, ignorant person is about to die. And Mukshutaha, a person about to get liberation. Both the cases, Tulya Satsampatti, merging into existence is similar, is same. There is no difference at all. Tatra, but among both of them, Vidwan Satsampanna, Navartate, the wise who has attained the existence does not return. Avartitva Vidwan, but the ignorant, even though he has also attained the same existence, but he returns. Ityatra, with this regard, Karanam Drishtantin Bhuyama. Please explain the cause of this matter. Bhuyeva Ma Bhavan, with once again, moreover, once with an illustration, with an example. Drishtantina, O Venerable Sir, Vijyapayato. Tata Samiti Huvacha, the Father says, okay, let it be so. Purusham Samyuta Hastagrihitam Anayandi Apaharshit Steyam Akarshit Parusham Asmaitapadedi Saiditasa Karda Bhavadi Tatevandradam Atmanam Gurude Sonrada Visandho Andradena Atmanam Antardhaya Parusham Taptam Pratigranati Sadayate Atahanyate. Purusham Saumya, oh good looking one, Uta Hastagritam Anayanti. They bring a person. They, in the sense here, the police or the king's men, people of the king who are meant for this job to catch thieves. They brought a person in front of the king or the judge. How they brought? Hands tied. Hastagrihitam. His hands tied. They brought him and they say, Anayandi, having brought, they said, Apaharashit. He has carried away some wealth of somebody. He has carried away wealth, they say. So just somebody carries wealth, how it can be punished? People carry wealth of one another because you have been sent to market. You have been given wealth and carrying the wealth. That does not mean you have to be punished. Therefore, they to make it clear says, Makarshi. He has committed theft. He was not given and sent to market, nor it was a gift. He has done the theft. Then the judge says, oh, if that is the case, Parsham Tasmai Tapata. Heat up an axe for him, for testing or for punishing. Sayyidita Sakarda Bhavati. Should he be the doer of that particular act called theft, then Tatayeva Nritamatmanam Kurute. And if it dies, and I have not done this, that means thereby that by stating so that I have not done this, by that statement itself, he has defiled himself. He has become jhuta, he is defiling himself. Andrita Mahatmanam Kurute. So Andrita Visando, that man committed to falsehood. Andritena Atmana Avantardhaya, hiding himself under or covering himself with what? Andrita, with falsehood. Parusham Taptam Pragrannati, foolishly, what they do is, he takes up the axe by his hand. So the yate, he gets burnt. Atahanyate, then he is given the punishment. But he will be killed. Then he is killed. Shrunu yatha Somya. O Somya, O good looking one, listen to the illustration first. Yatha, as it is seen in this world. What happens? Purusham, Chaurya Karmani Sandhiyamanam, Nigrahaya Parikshanaya Va, Utapi, Hastagrihitam, Baddhastam Anayanti, Rajapurushaha. The Rajapurushaha, the king's man, what do? They bring a man. Chaurya Karmani Sandhiyamanam. suspected of an act of stealing, nigrahaya for the sake of punishment, or parikshanaya for the sake of testing him. Utapi. There's a uta was there, utapi. Take together utapi. Either for punishment or for just testing. Hastagritam, with his hand tied, Baddhastam Anayanti was brought by those people. When that person was brought by the king's men in front of the king or a judge, the judge or the king asks, King Kritavanayam. They are asked, Prishtaha, when they are asked, what has this man done? King Kritavanayam. They say, Ahu. They reply, Apaharshi dhanam asya ayam. He has carried away this particular man's wealth. Asya ayam purusha dhanam apaharshit. This person has carried away the wealth of such and such a person. Te chaho. But still the judge or the king asks, has he given them? He is carrying away, it's okay. You saw him carrying away and you caught them. But do you know that wealth has been given by this person or not? Maybe it has been given for marketing, or maybe it has been given as a gift itself, dhanam. Therefore they are asking, Techahu, the judge or the king, they ask, Kim apaharana matrena bandhana marati? Does one deserve to be punished just because he is carrying the wealth? Even a servant carries wealth. Huh? The Lord is going in front. The servant is with all the bag and baggage. In that money is also, everything is there. In railway station also when you go, the coolies will be carrying all the bags and going just walking. Everything is there in that bag. Money also kept. He is carrying the wealth. Then punish him. But you give further him 100 rupees when it drops at the head, bogie. Take your coolie. Eh? So just carrying wealth does not mean that he has to be punished. That means to say the judge wants to ask his king's men, have you cross-examined this fellow before bringing in front of us? Then they say, yes, he has done theft. Because we ask this person of whose this wealth is, he says he has stolen. Therefore the first word is apaharshit, then stayam akarshit. Therefore I have to put questions here in between. Bhasha is adding those questions. Te chaho kim aparana matrana bandhana marati? Does one deserve to be bound just because he is carrying some wealth? Why? They have put this question. Annata datte pidane bandhana prasanga. Otherwise, there arises a possibility of being bound and punished to a person who is carrying wealth which has been presented to him as a gift. Ityuktaha. Iti uktaha. When stated so by those people, the judge or the king, Punarahu, the king's men, the police who had brought him, they say, Stayam agarshi, he has committed theft. Chauryena karmana dhanam apaharshiditi. He has carried away the wealth by the act of stealing. It was not given to him as gift or in other way for some other work. Iti. Evam vadatsu itaro apannute. When those policemen or the king's men, they are talking thus with the judge and this interaction this way, conversation, hearing that the person, the robber, the thief, what does he say? Naham tat karta. The thief denies and says, I am not the doer of this theft. Iti. Te chahu. They say once again, Sandhiyamanam stayam akarshihi tvam asya dhanasiti. You have been suspected of stealing according to the owner of the wealth. The owner of the wealth has said that this person has stolen. Therefore, there is suspicion now. We are suspecting you to have stolen the wealth of this person because this person is suspecting you as the thief. Asya dhanasya, of this person's wealth. Iti tasminscha pannuvanaha. When he persists in denying, Ahu, the judge or king, says, Parsham asmaita pataiti. Heat up an axe to decide whether this person has stolen or not. Shodhetu atmanamidi. Let him exonerate himself. If he has not done, it will be clear. If he has done also, it will be clear by this way of testing. सेदितस्य सस्थैन्यस्य कर्ता भवति बहिश्च पुनुत्ते. If he is the doer of that theft, but externally he is denying only, outwardly he is denying, but internally he knows that he has done theft. If actually he has done the theft and outwardly only is denying, then Saivam Bhuta, he being so, Tata Eva, just by that denial itself, Andritam, Anitha Bhutam Santam, Anitha Atmanam Kurude, he feigns to be a different, thereby he feigns himself to be a different person than what he is actually, other than what he is. In return, this one beautiful shloka which I have written on the top of my tippanam. Yo anyatha santam atmanam anyatha pratipadyate kintena na kritam papam chaurena atmapaharena. It's general to all jivas it is. Yo anyatha santam atmanam. How is this atma? Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. That Atma, you are accepting in which way? Anyatha Pratipadyate. You are accepting it to be a Jiva, Bandhanam, there is Dukha, Janma, Mrityuja, all these things you are accepting. Kim tena nakritam papa. Such a person, what Papa has not done, the greatest chore, the greatest thief is that person. Who Atma Paharina, who is actually stealing his own self's actual form. So we are all, in one way, all our Brahmajnanis are all thieves. So now, Sayam Bhuta, Tathaiva Andratam Annatha Bhutam Santam Annatha Atmanam Kurute. Because of this, that slok came into my mind, I had written at that time. Annatha Bhutam Santam, he feigns to be other than what he is actually. Sa Tatha, thereby he committed to Andrittabhisandha, to his falsehood. Andriten Atmanam Antardhaya, therefore he is hiding himself or covering himself by that falsehood. Vyavahitam Kritva, that means in between him and the acts, there is no direct contact, but within him and the acts is the falsehood. And that due to that falsehood, his hands burn. Parusham Taptam Mohat Pratigranat, you see, not Vivekat. Parusham Taptam, that heated axe, he foolishly takes up in his hands. Sadayate, he gets burnt. Ata Hanyate, then he is killed by Rajapurushahi. Swakarten Andritabhisandhi Doshina, owing to his own guilt of sticking to the falsehood. Atheditasya karta bhavati tatayeva satyam atmanam gurude sa satyabhisandha satyena atmanam antardhaya parshum taptam pratigruhnati sa na dahyate athamuchyate. Atha, on the other hand, yadi if tasya karta bhavati is not the doer of that particular act of stealing, tatayeva, by accepting that, by telling the truth, by that very fact, he speaks truth, therefore he makes himself satyam atmanam kurude, he makes himself truthful surely. Sa satyabhisandha, therefore now he is committed to truth. He is committed to truth and is covering himself satyena atmanam antardhaya. He is screening himself or covering himself or hiding himself by truth. Therefore, if he takes up that heated axe, parshum taptam pratigruhnati, then sa nadayate, he does not get burnt, atha muchyate, then he will be released. Bhashya. Really, certain in olden days such things were there. Nowadays it is very difficult in this way to test a person. During Shankaracharya time also, the way of punishment was also very peculiar. What Shankaracharya's uncle did, Shankara was seeing at that time, what his uncle was doing. Father had expired. His uncle was looking after the complete coconut garden and everything. Some people are doing theft, coconut theft. So what his uncle thought, I have to catch this person. Daily this is happening. So how to catch? He hid himself behind something. And the thief went up the coconut tree and started to put down the coconuts. Once he had stopped putting down the coconuts, immediately his uncle, Shankar ran up and went up the tree and tied his one piece of cloth, white cloth, that Brahmin. And he came down. Shankara, what is this one? That fellow can easily come down. But those days the people's mentality was like that. The Shudras would never cross that cloth also. The whole day that fellow was sitting there. From early morning, the 4 o'clock, he was stealing it from that moment. And evening at 4 o'clock, this fellow went, after 12 hours complete, the uncle removed the cloth and that fellow came down later. And the father says, that uncle said, come on, take all these coconuts also with you. The Shankar asked, what is this? So this is the punishment. How I caught was direct perception. But there's no other punishment that I can give to this fellow. I can't take him to the court or the king or somewhere and doing such thing. I don't want to do at all. For 12 hours, that fellow is sitting there without drinking, without urine, without stools, without nothing. That's the biggest punishment. The punishment is also like that. But in certain days, for small things also, immediately they were given, come on, put him to hang him up directly. This is what Duryodhana said. When the test for Yuvaraja was taking place, who should be the Yuvaraja? Yudhishthira or Duryodhana or some third person? The test was going on. 4 people were brought. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. It was announced in the court that these people together have murdered some person. So what should be the punishment? This was the test. And Duryodhana was asked first. Immediately said, hang all the 4. Hang up. No distinction at all. They have murdered a person. They have taken the life of a person. Their life should be taken. Then others are different answers. When Yudhishthira's turn came, Yudhishthira says, no. Shudra should be given only 3 years imprisonment. The Vaishya who financed, give the pralobhan to that Shudra. I'll give so much money, you go and murder. That fellow should be 6 years imprisonment. And being a Kshatriya, being a Rakshaka, became a Bhakshaka. For him, 12 years imprisonment. 12 years imprisonment. Who joined in this all matter. And the whole thing was planned by this Brahmin. But I can't give any judgment regarding him. For him, the punishment was decided by the Brahmin people who were sitting at Dronacharya. So Yudhishthira was made the Yuvaraj. So times were like that also. The punishment was given that way. Directly hang up like Duryodhana says. All should be hanged up. These are the Muslim countries. They don't think him to cut off his hands. He was still done stolen. So adha etasya akarta bhasha atha yadi tasya karmano akarta. On the other hand, if he is not the doer of that act of stealing, tat eva, by that very fact, satyam atman kurute, he makes himself truthful. Sa satyena, he, by that fact of spelling off the truth, taya, through this act, he having screened himself with the truth, staini akartritaya, taya, staini akartritaya, by the fact of him being the non-doer of the stealing act. Atmanam antardhaya parsham taptam. Atmanam antardhaya. Having covered himself with stainya kartritaya, covering himself with the truth. Satyena atmanam antardhaya. Satyena was the previous page. Satyena atmanam antardhaya. Is that sa satyena atmanam antardhaya. Satyena means what here he says, because he is telling the truth that he has not committed the act. Taya staini akartritaya satyena atmanam antardhaya. That's how the conjugation is. Covering himself by that truth, by the fact of stating that he has not committed the act of stealing. Parsham taptam pratganati. He takes up the hot axe. Sa satyavasandhasan na dayyate. He being committed to or sticking to truth. Because of that, he does not get burnt. Satya vyavadhanat, because he is screened or there is a barrier in between him and that parshu, the hot axe. What is that? Satyam, the truth. Ataha muchyate, then he is released from bondage by the suspected false accusers. Mrisha abhiyoktribhya. Mrisha means false accusers, abhiyoktribhya. Tat parshuhastatala sanyogasya tulyatve api. Although the contact of the hot axe with the palms of the hands is same in regard of both the cases. But what you see, the difference is, in the case of both, even though it is same, but steyakartra akartror anrtabhisandho dahiyate natu satyabhisandha. In the case who has committed theft and who has not, the touch is the same. But anrtabhisandho dahiyate. But the man who is sticking to falsehood, he is burnt. And natu satyabhisandha. And not it does not go to burn the person who is sticking to truthfulness. Sa yatha tatra nadahiyeta saya yeshwani maitadatmidikam sarvam tat satyam savatma tattva shvetageta iti tadhasya vijagyaviti. Chapter ends over here. Sa yatha tatra nadayeta. As in that case, the truthful person, he was not burnt. Similarly, you have to take with a person who has attained the knowledge of Brahman and thereby attained the absolute existence, does not return back to this world. Remember, that person is not there in the mantra. It will be taken up, understood. Saya Yeshonima, that which is the subtle essence, Ayudadatmidam Sarvam, all this has got that as their self. Tat Satyam, that is truth. Svatma, that is self. Tatmasi, thou art that. Shvedaketo iti. O Shvedaketo, my dear son, iti. Tadha asya. Asya, from him, that is from his father. He understood. Vijagyoviti. What? Tat, that Sat, which is Brahman. As himself. This is also understood. Vijagyoviti. This is the repetition is to indicate the completion of the chapter and also of the Sad Brahma Vidya. Starting now, Bhuma Vidya later. Sayata Satyabhisandha ityadi. We'll do the Bhasham tomorrow.